So as most of you know, we have had a tradition of some students speaking at this lunch with the intention of reminding us of what we do and how much we value working with them and knowing how important it is to work together. Wyatt's going to start speaking, and they have an order, so I'm going to let them just follow and introduce themselves. And please join me in welcoming Wyatt.
My name is Wyatt. Everybody hear me good? Friends, Romans, authority figures, lend me your ears, for I seek to praise you, not the beautiful building recently erected. It's surreal to stand here, both as a senior and in the presence of a building that I've waited so long to see, and frankly, these are both events that I've waited a long time for. You know, you build these things up in your head, how great they'll be when they happen, how much calmer your outlook will be, how you'll finally feel a sense of tranquility when X is accomplished. And there's always that voice in your head, nagging, wheedling, you know, things won't actually be any better when you're a senior. It's still the same writing themes and hour math homework, but it's not really. It really is better. It's calmer, more manageable, and it's not the work. It hasn't changed any. You have. I look around to my classmates, and I see people routinely doing things they couldn't have dreamed of just a few years before. I've come to understand why MBA requires sports in the way it does. It's a cliche metaphor, but it's true. When you first start running wind sprints, it's the worst pain you can possibly imagine. Your lungs burn, you're unsure if you can even live through the godforsaken workout. But as you get used to what it feels like, not only do you get better at it, but you know how hard you can push yourself, you know what failure is, and you know when you've left it all out there. It's the same with school. MBA hits you with a lot. It's one of the main selling points. A lot of this is going to hurt. It's good for you, but it's true. But when you're in 9th grade, haven't taken a study hall off in weeks, don't understand your math homework, and have to travel this weekend to Alabama for a rifle event, it just gets a little overwhelming sometimes. But through repeat exposure, day in, day out grinding, you get so used to it that nothing ever really phases you. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will receive no late grade. It makes you a better person and a stronger man. I have a time limit, so I won't stay up here too long, but there is one teacher I'd like to thank more than any other. Dr. Harden, you're kind of the man. The self-directed, primary source and writing-based A-Push course you taught was by far and away my favorite class I've taken here, and I sincerely doubt that I could have taken a class like that outside of MBA. Thanks to you, I can read 19th century temperance literature up there with the best of them. I remember once we had in-class work to do for the week, and Dr. Harden and I spent like the entire time talking about the history of the city of San Francisco. 50 minutes, 5 days, 250 minutes straight. Wouldn't trade it for the world, sir. Never change. And finally, as my English teachers are probably aware, I'm a big fan of gratuitous simile, so I'll leave you with this one. I find that MBA has a lot in common with a vaccine. Sure, it hurts going in, and you may whine and moan about it in the moment, but once you're done with it, aren't you going to do everything in your power to procure for your loved ones? Thank you. That's all I have.
My name is Frank Bass, and I've been at MBA since 7th grade. I'm honored to have been asked to speak today to the teachers, because over the past 6 years, I've come to recognize how thankful I am to be surrounded by a faculty passionate about their work. What makes a good teacher? This is a question I've recently been asking myself. The best teachers I've had have not necessarily been those with the most degrees, those who went to the most prestigious institutions, or those who teach the highest level classes here on campus. My best teachers have been those who have believed in me. It was Coach Patrick Simpson, staying in touch with our 8th grade advisory throughout high school. Decisions throughout high school were easier knowing that Coach Simpson believed in me. I couldn't let him down. It was Dr. Dickens, leading countless Zoom help sessions for my physics class last spring from his house despite spotty Wi-Fi. I've never wanted to succeed in a class more after seeing such dedication from Dr. Dickens. It was Coach Story, who was with his friends, talking to me before I went on a run to McCabe Park. Coach Story's AP European History class was tough, but to know I had a teacher who appreciated me outside the classroom, a teacher who genuinely cared how I was doing, made AP European History a highlight of my day. It was Coach Moran and Coach Chauvin, who taught me 10th grade math and 8th grade earth science respectively. In both of these classes, I succeeded not only because these teachers taught the subjects well, but because I could tell they cared about the young men they were teaching. That's the kind of teacher who you want to be your coach. It was Coach Klausner, Dr. Kinch, Mr. Sandifer, Mr. Kelly, working with me throughout my college process, and Mr. Moxley and Ms. Caroline Randall Williams for inspiring me to grow as a writer. Through the dedication of these teachers, I have found a place to develop my writing, Big Red Poets, an outlet that has allowed me to become a more engaged member of our community. It was Coach Cirillo racing me in Race for the Cure, back when it was still a 5K, and betting me a quiz grade that he would beat me. He did beat me in the 5K, but what mattered to me was I had a teacher who not only taught Latin better than anyone, but was humble enough to race me, a teacher who let me know that I mattered. It was Coach Calico who taught me 2 years of math and coached me in 4 years of hockey, reminded me to keep my stick on the ice and telling my math class that he would be the first through the door to stop any intruder. It was Coach Deutsch who allowed me to play the 2 toughest varsity hockey teams as a 10th grade hockey goalie in the league goalie pool. My teachers this year are phenomenal, and the coaches I've surrounded myself with over the past 6 years are second to none. To these coaches, my current teachers, Ms. Susan and Ms. Hoffield, thank you. I wouldn't be the same man I am today without you. This new building is amazing, but I want to remind you as teachers that a building is no better than the people inside it. As a young man, there have been two types of people that I've encountered in my 18 years. Those who have believed in me and those who haven't. If a kid has heart, both of these people will help him in his journey towards his goals. He will be determined to prove some wrong, and he will be hell-bent to prove those who doubted him right, He will be hell-bent to prove those who believed in him right. Keep believing in your students. Keep being teachers who your students fight to prove right. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Tanir Ghosh. So my journey at MBA started 4 years ago as an incoming freshman. I'd come from a long line of public schools, been there for like around 9 years, and I had no idea what I was going to expect. I'm not going to lie, I was intimidated. I knew of MBA's reputation, and I knew that I'd be going to a far different school than I was accustomed to. And from the first week of school, I was overwhelmed by the work, by the difficulty, by the sheer unfamiliarity. But despite the workload, despite the difficulty of the classes, I was able to transition well. But it wasn't because of my intellect, it wasn't because of the work I put in, it was because of you, it was because of the teachers. Specifically, I remember getting a lot of help in English. I was far behind my peers as far as my writing skills went, and I didn't even know how to diagram sentences. But whenever I needed the help, whether it was in the morning, during help session, or even during class, Mr. Bassett would be there for me. And I'm eternally grateful for that help I received then and for the help I continue to receive. For all my classes at MBA, I never felt like I was teaching myself the material or having to read the textbook in order to pass the class. I knew that I could always depend on the teacher to help me out. But some teachers also made it so that I found my place in the community. As this was my first time moving schools, I was worried about making connections and finding friends. But I remember quite distinctly the teacher that made that worry go away. It was Coach Tanir. Even though my first math class was mostly filled with sophomores, that class was where my walls were torn down. I didn't know you could learn so much in a class where no words were spoken. I didn't know a teacher could make me laugh so much. In this class, the sophomores welcomed me. Unlike my previous experience at schools, I found at MBA that the classes, the distinctions, and grades didn't really matter. I found that the upperclassmen weren't really quite intimidating, and I could always trust them as my brothers. And throughout my 4 years, I've always recognized and received this abundance of help and community, even outside of school. I think that all of us students recognize the efforts that you all give outside. And for me, one specific teacher stood out. I've been doing mock trial for about 4 years, and it's by far the hardest extracurricular I've ever done. During the weekdays, we practice from 6 to 8, and this is after the mandatory sport that we have. So for me, it was robotics. And those days were quite difficult. But for every single practice I've been to, Mr. Stewart has always been there. And if he hasn't been there for some reason, it's because he has a prior commitment to football. so he always has something. And that dedication to what extracurricular it may be, that dedication to the students is inspiring. And it reminds us students that we truly appreciate you all for how much you give to us. Now, just a few individual thank yous. I'd like to thank Mr. Joya, actually. Mr. Joya doesn't have much time, obviously, as he is a headmaster, but he's always found the time to talk to me and to help me whenever I needed it. During my sophomore year, I was really looking for something to do during the summer. And I met with Mr. Joya multiple times during the week, and he helped me find this research opportunity at Vanderbilt that proved to be incredible for me. And I can't thank you enough for that, Mr. Joya. Now, if I had the time, I'd go through every teacher I've had and probably comment on how you've impacted my MBA career. But since I don't, all I can offer is a simple thank you. Thank you to all, whether you are a teacher or a coach. Thank you for the 4 years of MBA that have been truly worth it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Ashton. During my MBA experience, I'm proud mostly of the relationships I've built with some of the faculty. I'd like to give a thanks to Dr. Fuller, Mr. Anderson, Ms. Hackney, and Emika for being there in my experience and always giving me guidance. I've had amazing memories with these teachers. One example being during all sports camp a couple years ago. I had this group of kids and they were not acting their best, and later that week I was going on a Wilson Grant to New York, and so I wanted to talk with them and make sure that they were going to act right when I left. So I sat them down and I talked for them about 10 minutes on what they should be doing while I was gone, and I actually told them that if they didn't act right and I heard about it, I'd come back just to put them in timeout. Right after that, I had a kid walk up to me and say, I might be scarier than Mr. Anderson. When I tell you that's one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me. Another great memory is going to football games and other sporting events with E, and always watching to see what he does so I can do it a couple seconds later. If you know me, I know nothing about sports, like at all. I could not even tell you what the football positions are, and I've been working with football for about 4 years. Anyways, I'd like to challenge you all to make personal relationships with your students. In my experience, connecting with the teachers made the class and school more enjoyable and also more welcoming. Get to know them personally and see how much a difference it makes in the classroom and for the students. If you notice a student isn't performing as they usually do, ask them why. If they're not turning in homework on time or they're missing a bunch of assignments, ask them what's going on. Don't just give them bad comments on the report cards or email the parents. The personal connection and you reaching out to us means the world to us. We students may be afraid to reach out or get comfortable around teachers, but it's your job to reach out a little further and make the effort to build a connection. And after you do, we'll feel more comfortable around you, especially in a time of quarantine where students feel isolated and may be going through extra moments of emotions and stress. Your reaching out will go farther than you think. This past semester, I lost a childhood best friend to suicide. It was hard, especially with school, college stuff, and my job hard on top of that. I had a few slips, and I wasn't always myself, but I managed. However, other students might not be able to say they'll do the same, and they may be going through worse situations than I did, or they might feel like my friend. So please reach out to your students and show them that you care about them, not just their schoolworks. Again, I'd like to thank Ms. Hackney for her amazing gingerbread competitions every year and being my second advisor, and Dr. Fuller for being my first advisor, and all the great memories I made during theater, and also Ms. Shamika, I know she's not in here, but being one of my great friends here during lunch and always taking me the good food from fourth period. Thanks.
So on behalf of all of us, Wiley, Frank, Tanir, Ashton, we thank you. made a great finish to our meetings today, and we need to remember your good words in terms of making this semester even better than the last. Thank you all. Have a great afternoon.